Welcome to Mission Majjhima. Ajahn?
Ajahn.
Okay. Ajahn, tell us about the Ambalaṭṭhikarāhulovāda Sutta.
Nice.
I did it.
So the advice to Rāhula at Ambalaṭṭhika, which is sometimes translated as mango stone, it's wonderful advice. The suttas where the Buddha is speaking to his son, of which this is one of three main ones in the Majjhima Nikāya, are really special because he's one speaking to his son and also speaking to, in this discourse especially, the commentary suggests that Rāhula was just 7 years old, so pretty young, and really great advice for, quote, purification of one's bodily, verbal, and mental actions. So the Buddha starts off coming back from his days abiding, and just as happens in monasteries nowadays, the Buddha washes his feet from a bucket with a water dipper in it. And Rāhula is right there, and the first of three similes we find right in a row is the Buddha dipping the water dipper into the bucket, and then just a little bit of water is in there, and he says, Rāhula, do you see how little water is in here? So too is how little of a samana, or of a recluse, a spiritual contemplative, for one who tells a deliberate lie. Then he throws it out and he says, see how that's tossed out? So too the samanahood of one who tells a deliberate lie is tossed out. Then he turns it over and says, do you see how this is turned over? So too the samanahood of one who tells a deliberate lie is turned over. And then do you see that it's empty? And so too the emptiness of one who tells a deliberate lie. And then he gives this interesting simile about a tusker, royal tusker elephant, who, in the first instance, is willing to fully give himself over to battle, using all of his limbs except for his trunk, holds back his trunk. And in the second instance, the second of this paired metaphor, he fully gives himself over to battle, including using his trunk. And the implication implied from this, or the drawn out meaning of this, is one who is willing to tell a deliberate lie is like the elephant who's willing to use his trunk, and then he's fully given over to, the implication is tamara, to the side of corruption, basically, mental corruption. And this relates to Dhammapada verses that for one who does not feel shame in telling a deliberate lie, there's nothing that they won't do. Then the Buddha says to Rāhula, thus you should train yourself. I will not tell a deliberate lie, even in jest. One of these ways of training oneself that we can take on. Then the Buddha gives his third simile of a mirror. So ask Rāhula, what is a mirror for? Rāhula says, for reflection. So too, you should look at your actions by body, speech, or mind, and reflect on them again and again through 3 different periods of time, past, future, or present. So with bodily actions, before you're going to do something by your body, you reflect, is this action I'm going to do? Will it lead to my own affliction, to the affliction of others, to the affliction of both? Is it unwholesome with painful consequences, painful results? And if it is, before you've done it, you don't do it. If while you're doing it, you also reflect again, this action by body. Is this action of body that I'm doing leading to my own affliction, affliction of others, affliction of both? Is it unwholesome, leading to painful consequences, painful results? If it is, you stop doing it in the moment. And then on retrospection, you look back, and if it was unwholesome, then you confess it to a friend in the holy life. So we consider this this mirror-like before, during, and after as just Rāhulic circumspection. You have prospection beforehand, introspection during, and retrospection afterwards. Same with speech, before you say something, while you're saying something, and after you say something. If you realize that it's unwholesome, then you don't do it, or you stop doing it, or you confess to doing it. But with body and mind, if it's wholesome, then you can do it, or you continue doing it, or you rejoice day and night, cultivating wholesome qualities. And with the mind, if before you think something is going to lead to painful consequences, painful results, then you don't think it. While you're thinking it, if it's leading to bad results, you stop doing it. And on reflection, looking back, you actually become disgusted, humiliated, and repulsed. Pretty strong language about that. So basically having some sense of inner compunction, not unhealthy shame, but just, oh, it's not really worth, it's not worthy of this, blaming the action, not a hypothetical self. But if you are thinking of something, and it's good, has good results, then you can continue. You can think it, you can continue thinking it, or after you think it, you can rejoice day and night in having done that. And the Buddha says that all contemplatives in the past who've purified their body, speech, or mental actions, they've all done so by repeatedly reflecting. And he says, thus you should train yourself, Rāhula. I will observe, reflect again and again on my bodily action, verbal action, and mental action so as to purify it. So really great advice from father to son. Ajahn, is there anything you'd like to draw out of this sutta?
I think I love how you point out that when one realizes that one's bodily, verbal, and mental action are beautiful, it's not a cause for apathy. It's a cause for rejoicing and cultivating wholesome states and just further zeal. Like, that's such a sweet little note in the discourses. And your reflection on the mirror, simile, because I think it's very significant, because in the Buddha's time, the most available mirror was water. And there's a really interesting link here between sort of honesty and the ability to reflect honestly about one's own actions. And the Buddha pointing out that if, you deliberately tell a kind of lie and feel no shame, that, you're steadily emptying out your ability to have true self-reflection as well. And that, in some sense, this is one of the biggest losses, because you lose the ability, there's nothing that one would not do. If you keep some measure of honesty and are engaging in unwholesome action, at least you have the ability to see that and hopefully, cure the transgression. But if you lose that ability, and it's an interesting effect that Ajahn Sona has pointed out in some research, that pathological liars suffer often from amnesia, this inability to really recall what's happened. So I think that's a very, unnoticed but beautiful link between the water pitcher and the water in it and this focus on honesty. And the Buddha says in Digha Nikāya 25, he points to honesty as one of the key quality in a trainee, or one of them, saying, send me a person who is honest, sincere, and straightforward. I will instruct him. I will teach him the Dhamma. The other thing I would point out here is just the Buddha's pedagogical skill. Rāhula is the 7-year-old. He's just given up a life in the palace for living out in the forest. It's probably not terribly fun all the time. And so the Buddha talks about, being like an elephant, an elephant warrior, and just a very skillful teaching means for a young boy. And it also brings to mind the beauty of his relationship with Rāhula. These 3 suttas, this one, the next, and then one of the ones later in the Majjhima Nikāya. Do you remember the number of that one?
147.
147. It's the only place in the suttas where you see the Buddha giving instruction to one individual through the whole course of his life, the whole training for him. And that's quite amazing, actually. And the other thing you see is, some people really look askance at the Buddha for leaving his family, but he went back and he ushered his father into at least stream entry. His son became an arahant. The Buddha did very well by his family and ended up, in fact, one of the reasons Rāhula goes forward is he asks the Buddha on the Buddha's first return to Kapilavatthu for his inheritance. And so the Buddha gives him the going forth. And in a sense, this is the most profound inheritance the Buddha could give Rāhula. So a very sweet sutta, and I love the focus on honesty. So Ajahn, what about you? Anything else to draw out of the sutta?
Maybe just 2 small points is that this is one of the suttas that King Asoka had put on the Babru rock pillar. So saying that this is a sutta which should be learned and memorized and emulated by laymen, laywomen, monastics, monks, and bhikkhunis. So that's fantastic that it's etched in stone from very early on after the Buddha's dispensation. And then also this term from the commentaries of Piya Musavada, which is literally like endearing lies, or what we might consider white lies, and that they're not really allowable in, or not, the Buddha puts even white lies in the basket of being lies, and doesn't encourage those.
And it is interesting, not telling a lie, even in jest, and what you're pointing to, you do gain a sense over time, even sarcasm if it has that kind of untrue speech in it, begins to feel a bit coarse. And the best, humor is honest, and it's just funny because it's kind of speaking about the truth in a certain sense or a certain angle. Ajahn, what is the word of the week?
The word of the week is kamma, which is the Pali form of karma, which just means action in Pali. So here we have kaya kamma, action by body, vachi kamma, action by speech, and mano kamma, action by mind. So it's not just the physical and verbal stuff we do, but also thoughts and intentions are also karma. Or the Buddha said, what is karma? It's cetana, it's intention. So
beautiful. We hope many of you can cultivate good karma this week, and we'll see you in a second if you're on Zoom, and otherwise next week for Majjhima Nikāya 62. Ajahn.
Ajahn.